next going to welcome Steve Jacobs. Many of you may know Steve. He's been involved with many of the regeneration programmes in East London over the years, so has plenty of experience to share with us.
Thank you very much.
In 5 minutes.
Well, I thought I'd make it a very short speech, talking about, start with the history of regeneration, going on to some of the theory, some of the practice and some of the lessons. That'll take about 3 hours. There'll be a break in the middle for dessert. In all seriousness, I started in the regeneration game something like 20 odd years ago, 25 years ago, whatever. And what was interesting is that many of the programs that I was involved in happened because something else happened. So there were riots in Liverpool, Brixton, Mr. Blair went over to the Americans or whatever, I got married, all those kind of things happened. And we started to name them things. We called them City Challenge, the urban programme, Education Action Areas, Health Action Zone, all kinds of Urban Development Corporation, LDDC. Some of the initials I didn't even understand myself, but they all came. And all of them talked about East London, in our case, about putting the heart back to East London, about giving East London its just desserts. It was talking about people looking at East rather than at West London. And the whole idea was to involve local people. I even remember this thing called the Olympics, and I was involved in the Olympic bid team, and I wrote something about local empowerment or whatever and getting young people involved in sport, and they actually printed it. You know, I have a half a sentence in the original Olympic bid document, which I underline every time anybody comes to dinner, which is very rarely on my hand. And so all these programs happened, and most of them were quite time limited. Most of them were about getting extra money from particularly the private sector, but also the other public sector organisations, to try, if you like, light the blue touch paper. This was the theory behind it. We would light the touch blue paper of regeneration, and we would, if you like, there'd be this kind of trickle-down effect that even though we had huge companies like this company that we're now in, Clifford Chance or whatever, whether it be NatWest, whatever, there'd be a trickle-down effect that local people actually would actually gain benefit from. Now, one of the things we used to do as kids, we were quite uncouth in Hackney, sort of in A. We used to have spitting competitions, disgraceful. And I was a very good spitter. And when I was asked to kind of look out the window before by our colleague, I wondered, can I spit to Canning Town? And I reckon with the right trajectory, I could actually make it. And what's so interesting and what's so disappointing to me is that we have these huge areas of wealth, cheek by jowl of some of the most poorest people, not just in London, but also in the UK. So one of the worries that I've got, one of the questions that I would pose to you is, why didn't it happen? Now, it's not to say, by the way, that things didn't happen. I came here on the Jubilee line. I travel on the DLR. I might be able to afford 1 or 2 tickets to the Olympics, etc., etc. So it's not to say that the regeneration programs have failed. And it's not to say, as Liam mentioned, that yes, some of our people can get jobs at the City Airport as baggage handlers, yeah? And it's not to say that, there are some jobs here that do go to local people. It's not to say that some schools, with the help of Liam's organisation, do better. But what we can't do, we can't be mystified by, or we can't be, if you like, blinded by some of the wonderful successes. But some of the generalities I think we should also be aware of. I phoned up Community Links, that I'm a very proud trustee of yesterday, and said, give me some facts and figures. They don't mind all my blarney, but they actually want some figures. And Aaron, I hope, is in the front seat. Well done, front seat. I'm glad you. Aaron sent me some stats. Now I can't read stats. I read graphs and whatever. And bluntly, we ain't doing that good. We're at the bottom of the graph when we should be at the top, and we're at the top when we should be at the bottom. And that's whether you talk about education, crime, housing, or whatever. So, as my son tells me, I'm a complete failure, particularly when it's spending money. But I think we have to think very carefully and very seriously. Not just about the failures, but also the successes. Be very careful that when we talk about new programs, new ideas, that we don't just say, It's just that old fogey talking, but we actually do learn from the past. And one of the things I'd like us to do today isn't to throw the baby out from the bathwater, but really think very carefully how we really empower local people, and that one day we can say about Canning Town and Stratford that it's a pretty ordinary place. It's ordinary in as much that it has ordinarily good schools, ordinary good housing, and people get ordinary good jobs. And we don't need some of these artificial stimuluses that have been the history of the East London in the past. Thanks very much.